Stage 8 produced some big losers.
Michael Rogers was the biggest, of course, but in terms of physical damage sustained, his fellow Australian Stuart O'Grady was significantly worse off. A broken collarbone, 3 cracked vertebrae and 5 broken ribs, one of which punctured his lung. And to round off a terrible day for Australia, Robbie McEwen, struggling with a bad knee for most of the race, was eliminated for coming in outside the time limit. It was a bad day for Team Mobile too, having lost their team leader Rogers. They lost their young sprinter when Britain's Mark Cavendish abandoned, lost Linus Gerdeman's yellow jersey, of course, and then lost Patrick Sinkovits after the race when he had a spectator going back down the route. Sinkovits is out of the Tour with facial injuries. The spectator is seriously ill in hospital. And the rest day didn't seem to have improved Team Mobile's luck, with Marcus Berghardt riding one of the team's new prototype collapsible wheels into a Labrador that couldn't wait for the lights to change before crossing the road. The commissaires were at pains to point out that neither rider nor dog was injured. Whether that means the Labrador's still in the race, I'm not sure, but Berghardt was last time we checked. And Stage 9 was the last in the Alps, taking the riders over the twin high points of this year's Tour, the Col des Arènes at 2,770 metres and the Col du Galibier at 2,645. It was the Galibier where Discovery's Alberto Contador launched his attack on the group containing all his main rivals. He joined up on the descent with his teammate Jaroslav Popovic, who'd gone out in an early breakaway. A nice piece of planning by Team Discovery, although they didn't quite have the legs to carry it off. The pair of them were eventually caught by the chasing group, whose pace was too much for Alexander Vinokourov and his damaged knees. And while the group was distancing Vino, out front Barlow World's young Colombian Juan Mauricio Soler was riding towards the final climb of the day, a nasty kick-up towards the line in Briancon.
This is the leader though, and the clock starts now. How much has he got now? He's still got a lot of guts, this rider. He's out of the saddle again. This will be the biggest moment of his life, not just for him, for Colombia and for his team who've never been in the Tour de France.
Well, he's got to battle now. The only thing he's got to battle is himself, the inner energy that he can muster to keep himself going on the final downhill into the outskirts of Briançon. And I hope Phil he's read the road book tonight, because the road book explains exactly how the run-in is over the last 5 kilometres. You drop down over the last 5 kilometres for 3.5, then all of a sudden you take a nasty left-hand bend, and the climb up to the finish line is going to be very difficult indeed, almost as tough for some of these guys as the Galibier itself.
You may have seen the fort on the hillside. Well, we are commentating at the gates to that fort. They have to climb up to it to finish today. Now they're coming back together here, they're reorganising. This might favour the leader because they were racing each other to split up the time gaps. The leader, they're not quite so excited about, because they wouldn't see him as a likely winner of the Tour. So it may help in the fact they've caught each other.
It will be a major help for him, because he's still holding on to a minute of his advantage. Now slipping away from this group is this young man, Juan José Cobo, the winner of the Pays Basque racing in the early part of this season. He was a major revelation, but I think he was trying to help in this group to get Iban Mayo back into the fold.
Well, the leader lost only 1 second in the last 5 kilometres of his lead. These riders here are now coming up, and that's what we thought would happen. Once they caught the Discovery duo, they've eased up, and now Leipheimer is going to come back into the action as well.
Well, this would be a nice move for Levi Leipheimer to try and get himself away on this final climb up to the finish line here in Briançon, because he's been sitting there locked at the back of the group. He's been in a defensive role because of his 2 teammates in front. But Cloden is the man who's finally nailing them back. There's Carlos Sastre behind him, followed by the French champion, followed by Cadel Evans, and just holding on there. Iban Mayo must be wondering, what has happened to me today, because I was better than everybody 2 days ago.
3 kilometres to go. That one man will not know what's happened, but all of the favourites, except Vinokourov, of course, are back together. That's 4 kilometres to go.
4 kilometres to go now, but it's 3 kilometres to go for the leader. These riders at these speeds are separated by approximately 1 kilometre.
Should be enough.
De la course, Juan Mauricio Soler Hernandez is in the outskirts of Briançon. Phil, he's got 1.5 kilometres downhill, then he will turn to the left and start to climb up to the finish line right outside the Citadel.
Well, there's going to be a lot of people lining up to want to sign this boy onto another team after this ride. They'll have to fight to keep him on Barlow World. He has been an absolute star here. when you're given a chance as a wild card to ride the Tour de France and you win a stage, then you really have lived up to a great reputation. The boys behind are going to explode when they get to the final kilometre. They're at 3 to go.
Jose Ivan Gutierrez is on the front, setting the pace for his man Alejandro Valverde, but Jaroslav Popovic is still very keen to keep the pressure nice and high. They can see they've got themselves a big advantage. I think they've left it too late, but they're banking on the fact, and that's why they're keeping the pressure on here, that Soler in front has a hard time when he hits that steep climb up to the finish. They will not give up.
The Baker's dozen, 13 riders chasing one man. They've made little impression on him in the last 5 kilometres. They've all come back together. Graham Moreau stays in this race for France, tagged on to the back. These are desperate moments. We're into Briancon. It is dangerous now. These corners dive and duck, and they switch back. They descend very steeply, and then it's a horrible sight when they come round the corner. The road just goes up to the heavens to the finishing line. 2 kilometres to go for the chasers.
Well,
he's
it's
looking for
coming
one.
down. It's 50 seconds, 48 seconds, and he's now inside the streets of Briançon. But that wall you were talking about, Phil, when you see it in front of you, when you've led the race, that's it.
This is it. Wait for it. He sees the kilometre. He sees the wall. They can't take it away from him now, surely. He's got to find those climbing legs just one more time.
Well, they're stopping the cars behind the lone leader now, Phil. They're emptying the gap, so nobody is in there at all. I want to will this man on. I want him to win the race this afternoon. There's the French president witnessing a magical battle here in the Alps this afternoon. But this is the big move now.
This is Jaroslav Popovic who's gone again.
Popovic is trying to set something up for his man Alberto Contador, and slipping backwards there is Gutierrez. He'd done the work for Alejandro Valverde. Leipheimer is in a little bit of difficulty at the back here with the acceleration of his own teammates.
Well, they've got to get rid of all those motorbikes out of that gap now. They've got to give the kid a chance up front. Cadel Evans is making his throw for the finish. They're racing the leader, they're racing themselves, because they know on this climb they can open a gap of 10 or 15 seconds on one another. As now Moreau again continues to struggle. Saster's finished. This man is climbing to victory. He's got his rhythm again.
He's got his rhythm. He's just got to keep it going. It doesn't matter if he wins by a second or 2 seconds. That's not important for him. The important thing is to win for Colombia and to win for Team Barlow World. A little look over his shoulder. He knows how quickly they'll come back at him, but he's still got good climbing legs. He's still got those legs ticking over. We can't yet see the shadow of the group behind him. And surely, Phil, shortly, this man is going to smile. Surely he's going to get the win inside of the final kilometre. Evans now is seriously looking, and Rasmussen has taken over the pacemaking at the front.
Rasmussen, the yellow jerseys, come through a day today. A few shocks, but still a very solid leader at the top. It looks as though Moreau might concede a couple of seconds by the finish. Evans is moving up on the shoulder of Rasmussen. This is going to be a very, very sharp finish today. We can't see the man in red. He must be very, very close to the finishing line now.
This is how difficult this final kilometre is, and there he is still in the lead. He's got a big advantage. He's 500 metres to go.
That's
they will
enough.
not catch him anymore, because once he's round this corner, he'll see the banner. There it is, just around the corner. Push this man home, because he's made an incredible move on the slopes of the Col de Galibier, and I think he's heard us, Phil, because he's finding a little bit more energy. He's pushing himself now. The pain is slowly starting to disappear from his thighs.
This is a rare Colombian victory. It is a definite first victory for Barlow World in their first Tour de France. It's a South African team. They've got a lot of foreign riders on it, but now this man who flew around everybody, having been 6th over the top of the Telegraph, wiped them out on the Galibier and somehow held them all off on what has been a tremendous race from the top of the Galibier to the top of this little climb in Briançon. There's time soon to zip up the jersey and salute the crowd. They won't stop him now. He has got the win. I can't think of his name. Juan Mauricio Sola Hernandez has won the stage.
Well, he's won the stage, but these men are fighting out for a few time bonuses. You can see on the front there, that is Cadel Evans. They're putting time between themselves and Christophe Moreau, who battled his way back into the race on the slopes of the Col de Galibier. But Alejandro Valverde is coming up for the second place. A few more time bonuses for him. This man is unsatiable when it comes to getting places. He's going to get himself a 12-second time bonus on the line, maybe a bit more, because there are gaps appearing with his acceleration, while Cadel Evans is just hanging on.
There should be time gaps here as he comes up to the line. He's coming in around 38 seconds. Cadel Evans on his back wheel, little gap to Contador. And then comes Mayo, followed by the yellow jersey. And Moreau here has lost about 40 seconds overall on the day. And Vinokourov, well, the clock will start now, but could well have seen the elimination of Alexander Vinokourov today as a winner of the Tour de France.
By the time Alexander Vinokourov rolled over the line, he'd lost 3 minutes 24 to the stage winner, but more importantly, the best part of 3 minutes to his rivals for overall victory. And after riding 5 tours without a flicker of visible emotion, Vino's psychological state was suddenly on public show. At the top, Rasmussen's lead was now up to 2 minutes 35 with the disappearance of Linus Gerdemann from second place. Alberto Contador had ridden himself into 5th, only 2 seconds closer to the lead than he had been before the start of the stage, but he seemed to think that all the effort of his ASAP front had been well worth it.
Sí, desde luego, ¿no? Ha sido una etapa muy dura, sabía que era difícil llegar a meta, porque había 40 kilómetros, pero mira, finalmente hemos llegado al repecho. Popovic, mi compañero, ha hecho un trabajo excepcional, pero bueno, no hemos podido conseguir llegar. Pero bueno, esperemos que en otra etapa se nos dé mejor, pero bueno, al final lo que importa es encontrarse bien y dar espectáculo.
Behind Contador was the trio of Carlos Sastre, Andreas Klurden and Levi Leipheimer, all between 3.5 and 4 minutes back. Dennis Menchoff, the Rabobank team leader, had slipped more than 7 minutes behind his teammate Rasmussen. Alexander Vinokourov was another minute further adrift.